Blinken is pushing for Ukrainian teens to die for U.S. hegemony. Notes from the edge of the narrative matrix. U.S. Secretary of State Tony Blinken repeated the U.S. government's new position that Ukraine needs to start sending 18 to 25-year-olds to fight in its war with Russia, telling Reuters on Monday that getting younger people into the fight, many of us think, is necessary. This comes even as polls have begun showing that Ukrainians favor making a deal with Russia to end this war as quickly as possible. This is one of those things that looks more evil the longer you stare at it. They're pushing for teenagers to be thrown into the fires of an unwinnable war like it's nothing, like a corporation saying they need to hire more staff to accommodate their growing business. And why? To tie up Russia so that Syria can be turned into a smoking crater, and allow the U.S. war machine to focus its crosshairs on Iran and China with the end goal of total planetary domination. All because some swamp monsters decided after the fall of the Soviet Union that the U.S. must maintain unipolar global hegemony no matter the cost. Ukraine barely even has anyone in the country from ages 18 to 25 for various reasons, many of which predate this war. But the managers of the U.S. centralized empire are pushing to scrape out the few that they do have and toss them into the landmines and artillery fire just to keep this unwinnable war going for a few more months. Whether they succeed or not, the fact that they even tried is so profoundly psychopathic it's actually hard to wrap your mind around. You won't see anyone in Tony Blinken's family headed to the front lines in Ukraine. These freaks see the population of this planet as nothing more than pawns on their grand chessboard, and they will sacrifice them just as casually. Watching the internet light up with joy over the assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson has been interesting. We don't know what the motives of the actual shooter were as of this writing, but the disgust and rage the public holds toward wealthy, exploitative parasites these days is becoming more and more incendiary. Watching all this, I keep finding myself thinking of that JFK quote, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable." What are the people meant to do when predatory megacorporations ruin lives by the thousands? Write them sternly worded letters? Vote the corporations out of office? Their options have been closed to them. You can't be anti-racist and pro-Israel. They are mutually contradictory positions. Israel is an apartheid state, arguably the most racist society on this planet. If you support Israel, you support racism, whether you admit this about yourself or not. Al-Qaeda in Syria keeps changing its name for the same reason the military contractor formerly known as Blackwater keeps changing its name. It's a rebranding to rescue its damaged reputation, stifle public outcry, and ensure further funding from the U.S. government. The left is divided on Syria only in the same way it's divided on Ukraine and other conflicts. Marxists, dedicated peace activists, and opponents of the Western Empire on one side, shit-libs, NATO simps, and anarch-kiddies on the other. The high level of leftish unity we've been seeing between those two groups on Gaza this past year is the exception, not the norm. You see this split pop up on issue after issue, and it basically boils down to a divide between those who recognize the U.S. centralized empire as the world's most murderous and tyrannical power structure, versus those who swallow Western propaganda spin to some extent.